Okay, hi everybody. I'm gonna jump straight into my presentation. I think you will get what I'm getting at along the way. So, first thing I'm gonna talk about is actually the piece which is here in the exhibition. It's called Networked Optimization, and it's a collaboration with Italian artist Silvio Lorusso, who is also here in the room. And the jumping off point for this piece is the Amazon Kindle, the ebook reader from Amazon. And like in a real book, basically you can underline passages that you think are really interesting or important. And then two things happen. First of all, it's stored on your device as a note that you took. And the second thing that happens is that it's transmitted to Amazon's cloud server, and they store every single note that I take, that you take, that everybody takes, which leads to some really nice insights into what people read and how they read. And so we found this page on Amazon where you could look at the most highlighted passages of all time. So the screenshot is a bit old, but back then it was, because sometimes things happen to people and they're not equipped to deal with them, is the most important thing when you read to come across. But what we found way more interesting is when you look at the books which contain many highlights, it's actually a lot of self-help books. So obviously first one is the Holy Bible. People take lots of notes when they read it, and then there's Steve Jobs, who says, pretend to be completely in control and people will assume that you are. But if you go down a bit, there is like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the 5 Love Languages, and how to win friends and influence people. Unfortunately, the website does not exist anymore, so when you go there now, it's just shut down, because I think it's actually really interesting statistics, and it's created some some attention that Amazon probably didn't want to generate in the end. So what we did is we took those 3 self-help books that were kind of in the top of the list, and removed everything inside the book besides the popular highlights, because I have to go back to show you. When you read the book and you come across a passage that is really popular with many people, you're actually being shown that it's an important thing. It says, like, so and so many people highlighted this. So when you read, you know, okay, this passage is really important. And the curious thing here is, like, the self-help books, I think, really stand for our contemporary time, where it's not like you have to get better, you have to improve yourself, but you really want to. Like, you want to do it by yourself, and it also is like, when something's wrong and you don't really fit in, or you're not good enough, it's not a structural problem, but it's your problem, so you better improve yourself. So it's like this nice feedback loop, I think. When you read it, you know, okay, people highlighted this, they probably meant it, they got like better person, so I should do it as well and highlight it and follow that rule and so on. And Amazon analyzes it and knows, okay, those books really work, this author is really interesting, really important. And obviously authors as well look at those things and kind of like probably change the way they write. Maybe at least they are being influenced by that. So yes, we removed everything but those highlights, and that looks like this. So you basically have empty books with every now and then there is a highlight, a sentence, and this is a really good example for what is in those self-help books. Our behavior is a function of our decisions, not our conditions. We can subordinate feelings to values. We have the initiative and the responsibility to make things happen. But basically the books are empty. They are kind of like this thick, but they contain only 10 sentences, and the rest is just empty, which, I mean, it would be interesting to know what's with the rest, but obviously Amazon does not share this. And a friend told me he's using the book he bought as a notebook, which I found really good, like to say, okay, well, and let's use this one. If you look at the quotes, to me it's really easy to make fun of it, obviously, because it's kind of weird. Even though some people think, okay, we kind of think those are really good books, and optimizing those books is like the goal of this. But on the other hand, I would not make any fun of this. I mean, I can't really understand the books, why you would read them, and also I think it's more part of the system that you highlight these things, that you read the books, and I think actually it's maybe really smart to do it that way, because talking about smartness, it's the thing at the moment, like smartphones, smart home, whatever smart, actually means always to always work, to always be connected and so forth. But having books that have like pre-highlighted sentences that are reduced, that's really smart. I think being smart is just being lazy and not working all the time. And for those who have seen the piece in the show, maybe you wondered, why are the books on a transparent table? Why is there a white backdrop? Why are there studio lights? So to keep the whole thing inside the Amazon, how you say, like a system, we use this patent by Amazon, which is a very generic photo studio setup, which they patented, so you can't just do it or use it. And yeah, we dare to. And the really funny thing here, I mean, it's a very generic thing, but for whatever reason, they put a person on the table. But the thing is, it's really easy to take product photos with a setup. You put the product on the table. It's transparent. It's reflective. You don't have any shadows and so on. This morning, it was more like it wasn't really planned from the beginning, but we really felt we would love to do a performance, to use all those sentences in the self-help books and have somebody who's like, not like me, a German who doesn't really speak well English, or like Silvio, who's the same but Italian, but have a proper guy from the States who really tells people what to do. And so we reordered the sentences in a way that kind of makes sense, but obviously it's pretty hard to combine 10 sentences from 3 different books. And so it was this panel, which, yeah, it was a panel like this, but he got on stage and delivered the message. And this is just raw, it's not edited, nothing.
What you are shouts so loudly in my ears that I cannot hear you. Forgiveness is the way of love. I am amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day with yesterday. They insist on bringing into today the failures of yesterday, and in so doing, they pollute a potentially wonderful day. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a commitment. It is a choice to show mercy, not to hold the offense up against the offender. Forgiveness is an expression of love. It becomes obvious that if we want to make relatively minor changes in our lives, we can perhaps appropriately focus on our attitudes and behaviors. But if we want to make significant quantum change, we need to work on our basic paradigms.
So I think it's pretty hard to disagree with anything he just said. Yeah, anyway, I think I totally agree with you, just described really well that, I mean, this is a system, like it's, on one hand, it's like a network, an algorithmic system, and then there's people feeding it, and it's like endless feedback loops, and you can't really tell apart what's the system doing, like the more technical thing, or what are you doing, what is, like, it's totally interwoven. Which brings me to this, which actually is a Google image search for the term neural network. And it's kind of weird to sit here 2012, 15, sorry. Yeah, I'm living in the past, sorry. No, you know. Because it feels like 2012 or even earlier, like people were really excited, okay, neural networks, that's the thing. And they did that like every 10 years maybe, and I'm doing it again 2015. And why do I do that? Because now with big data, it kind of makes sense that it's going to be really big. So what is it? When you look at this, like it's a neural network. It's a subsection of artificial intelligence, which is actually the thing that's about to happen. People think or say, and it's a model of the human brain. Basically, you have neurons and you connect them, and you try to rebuild a brain or a function of the brain inside the computer. And I'd like to take a brief moment to actually look at a basic unit of how this works, because I think it's really important to understand this. So this is a so-called perceptron, which is the basic unit of most neural networks, which are basically a big part of artificial intelligence. And how this thing works is that you have on the left, you have input. This could be like some pixels, some photos, whatever data. It has to be, different inputs. And you have them weighted into this thing in the middle. Like you have, like, let's say, be very generic, you have an input of 1, 3, 5, and 0, and then they are weighted in some way, and you have an output, which is usually between 0 and 1. So actually, it's pretty simple and pretty generic. And what it does, in the beginning, these weights are completely random. So you feed some numbers into it, and you get something in between 1 and 0 out of it. And now the training, so the thing where the intelligence happens, is that you modify these little weights until you get the desired output, so that when you feed in a cat, in the end it says this was a cat, and you do it until it gets it right. This was rather big some months ago. It's a neural network by people from Stanford who also work for Google. And this thing has two applications. So one is it can look, so to speak, at photos. So you feed them into this neural network, which is built of these perceptrons, which can be way more complicated and which you then connect many million times in the end. And it can detect what is in there. So at some output it says, okay, this is a dog, this is a guy with his accordion, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, it can produce real sentences based on these photos. And this is really impressive, right? To me, I find it's really fascinating, and it's a huge step. I mean, when I was talking about, I'm talking about algorithms a lot, and always when I was talking about it, it was like, okay, look, computers can do a lot, but seeing images, understanding them is the thing they can't do, but we have reached the point where computers can actually do that. But if you read the paper, how did they do that? How do you train a neural network to understand what is actually in this image? So you take a huge data set where you have many, many, many images, and you know what is in the image because you give it to people and tell them, okay, what's in the image. They create the data. And in this case, it's basically all Amazon Mechanical Turk. And I assume most people know, but just to briefly, to make sure everybody's on the same page, basically, Mechanical Turk refers back to this automaton where you would have this little man, and it would be a really, really good chess player. And people went there and tried to beat it, and it was impossible, and was like, how does this work? This machine is so good at chess. Why is that? And it took maybe 70 years for people to find out that there was a person inside the box. So it wasn't a good machine, it was just a really good chess player sitting inside it. And what Amazon does, they're using this notion in order to produce artificial intelligence. So they have people working for them for really, really little money that are given jobs that computers either can't do or can't do for that little money. So, for example, the tagging of photos, and they can say, okay, look, please describe the image in one complete but simple sentence. That's one of those tasks, and you get maybe two cents for this, and then you have to figure out what is it and describe it. So that's basically more or less the only way that you can produce this artificial intelligence, by having people feed everything into this thing, and then you train it on it. And that, I think, what made it so important to me was that I was always really interested in this notion that so many things have become labor. You work all the time, like this highlighting of sentences to me is like micro labor. So this made it really obvious to me. And also, like, click on Google is the same. You train the neural network, or this is solving captchas. Now with cats or dogs, again, you're training the network. And at some point, you were training the network like the Google network, to read house numbers by solving captchas with house numbers. And in the end, you had this headline: Google Street View uses an insane neural network to ID house numbers. So they built this really great algorithms to solve them, which in the end, of course, it's not true. They just had 600,000 images that were tagged by people, and they learned all the time how to do that. So the point I'm trying to make with this is, of course, I think neural networks are really exciting. I work with it, and I'm really, really excited by it. But I think we should be really aware that it's like there is a person inside the machine, and actually it's us inside the machine. So this artificial intelligence that's so exciting is not this thing that's coming from above, or from, I don't know, from some magic programmer, but it's actually something that we as a collective build through training it. So in that sense, it's like we're standing around the Amazon Echo being really amazed by what it can, but it's actually just reading Wikipedia, which we produced or other people produced. Which brings me, and I think I'm running out of time here, to a second piece, which I'm, how are we going to do that? I'm going to quickly show it to you as a nice end to this. It's going back to the optimization, and it's a piece I did for the so-called Screensaver Gallery, which is a gallery that does not exist in real life space, but it's a screensaver. So you install it, and you have the gallery on your computer, and every month, more or less, a new artist or an artist creates a new work that's being shown on your computer as a screensaver, but nobody sees it because screensavers only play when nobody's there, and I like that a lot. So how are we going to do that? How much time is left? Okay. We called Office Space, which was directed by Mike Judge in the 1990s. I think many people know his work from Silicon Valley, the series, which just aired recently. And so those guys are working in this company fixing the year 2000 bug in banking software, and they're really unmotivated. And then there's this efficiency expert coming, and basically everybody's being laid off except the guy on the left, because he's getting this hypnosis and he doesn't care, and they think it's great. But in the end, the office is being burned down, and he's like the computer's burned down. He's really happy and puts them away, and thinks like, oh, being a construction worker, maybe that's the good thing to do. And I found that to be really weird, but kind of like a nice 90s solution to this problem. And so this version is an optimized version of the video. Every silence in between dialogue has been cut out, which is an algorithm I stole from Douglas Coupland, which he describes in microserves. But that was not the actual piece. That was, I thought in the beginning, would be interesting. And what I did is I uploaded it to file sharing platforms just for fun, because to spread this optimized version. But while I was doing this, I came across this article about this algorithm that does exactly this. This thing really gives me hope that there is, like, the piece is called parallel universes, so there is a different other universe in parallel to the optimized one, which I think is, yeah.